what advice would you give to try to figure out what kind of person you are, or like what you should be doing with your next career move?
When you really look at trying to like do good, you can have like different directions. Obviously, I think the smartest way to break it up is into 3 sections. When you're trying to help a cause, hopefully you're able to choose one, but it's not the worst thing if you care about multiple causes. It doesn't make you, disingenuous if you care about education and, by the way, issues in Africa about poverty. That's fine.
Right.
But you have 3 options. You can give wisdom, wealth, or work. Maybe you have time, maybe you don't, maybe you join a board, maybe you give shitloads of dollars, but then you follow up on it. So you've got these buckets to look at, saying if I care about these causes, what of these elements can I give? Can I give all 3? So that's in your arsenal. Find what you care about and shop around, and take a look at your own personal pie chart. You're wondering how a digital, basically, organization, we're not a direct service.
Right.
There's nobody coming in here for, donating genes. There's nobody coming in here for school supply drives that we do, canned food drives, or pregnancy texts, or any of our other campaigns. It's actually slightly removed. And we can leave aside whether or not, you think that's a good or bad use of technology, or should we have more on-the-ground presence. How do you tell the story and sell to interns? So currently our intern program is very robust. We normally have about 200 applicants per position that we post for college level during the summer. So it's highly competitive, and I think these are folks that buy into the idea that Do Something's able to leverage technology to engage hundreds of thousands of young people. And these are folks that can look at a map and see that, when I show you a heat map of the United States and say that 1 million young people per month are coming to our site as visitors and finding campaigns and causes that they like, they believe in those numbers. And it's augmented, of course, by real accounts from, a story of a young person volunteering and what it meant to them, or the fact that they probably saved their dad's life because they participated in I Heart Dad and they brought them in for a health examination. And that's a story that gets shared with us. Or when we realized that we helped so far make 10 matches with our Give a Spit campaign that's doing bone marrow drives. That's a powerful thing to say, could you really do that with one on-the-ground cheek swabbing thing? Could you register 30,000 donors over the course of a month? It's a different lens that you have to put onto it, and fortunately it's a self-selecting crowd that's motivated by that type of thing. If you're going to go through an organization and change jobs 5 times, there are going to be points where you are doing 2 jobs, the job you want and the job you have.
Yes.
And I'd argue that anybody who's new to their career should be doing both of those jobs. Unfortunately, during that transition, there are times when you probably should have been fired. And Nancy, in her book Zilch, writes about a time when she was basically going to fire me. Actually, it comes up twice.
Really?
Absolutely.
What were those reasons?
I was terrible at fundraising. I wasn't really doing a very good job because I was doing my next job. I was doing the best I could, honestly. But, to pull a page from Jim Collins getting the right people on the bus and figuring out what the hell they should be doing, it just took me a real long time to get there. Fortunately, I wasn't fired along the way, but I probably should have been fired.
Interesting.
So a challenge there is getting to that point, doing that much work, but also the sort of ability to communicate with whoever your boss is about what you see yourself doing inside of the organization. And the absolute death sentence for any millennial will go with in the workplace is when they realize there's a glass ceiling and that they aren't learning anything new. That person's got 18 months of your organization and they're moving on. If you wonder why that's happening, I just answered your question. For me, that was a challenge, obviously, going through that process, almost being fired because I was going through this trajectory towards CTO, which is very, very non-traditional. I don't recommend that you get your CTOs from your fundraising department. It's a terrible idea. I'm an awful CTO. Organizationally, Do Something has evolved. When I joined, we had 8 people. I was 8th or 9th person here. As we grew, we're now at 45 people. organizational dynamics change. Necessary bureaucratic layers happen then too. You go from the ideals that we're a flat organization, everybody's like even.
Right.
No, it's just not possible. You don't organize like that.
Right.
So hierarchies happen, and it's not as vertically mobile as it used to be with regard to job promotions and the directions you can go. And that's for better or worse what happens when you have an organization of this size. Any organization who's gone through that type of growth definitely sees that same sort of thing. So what you do is you have to augment with titles, with learning, with opportunities, things that still get people excited about the job roles, and that can be difficult. There's certain clusters of jobs here that just are they are what they are. Good organizations, good not-for-profits who realize charity stops at the door. This is definitely a business. If we didn't make money, we'd be out of business. If we didn't make impact, we'd be out of business.
Yep.
I wish more not-for-profits were out of business if they weren't making impact.
Right.
But that's the case. You're still working in an organizational structure, and we look to best practices, be it nonprofit or for-profit.
Yeah, in some ways it's doubly challenging because corporations are only measured by the revenues they generate. They're not really held under the microscope. Yeah, exactly. They're not really held under the microscope for impact. What is impact? But nonprofits have two things that they have to optimize towards.
So here's a graph, and down here we can see there's time.
It's education on the top as the label in case
education
it's too small.
is the title of this, and this is the investment that we do over time in ourselves. So it starts off when we're early in our earlier years, in our middle school years. We are crushing. We don't realize it, but we are crushing it in investment. Our parents are paying the bill, right? So we're doing pretty well here. We're investing in middle school, high school. It gets more expensive. Maybe you went to public school, but trust me, it still costs money to feed you so that you can be a full-time student. Jesus, we're supporting full-time students. Right? And we get into college. I'll just get a little college. There's the college moment. We have a huge spike.
Nice.
We're paying even more, right, for college, as you know, which is why scholarships are actually one of the number one drivers for young people engaging with do something that we support them with scholarships.
Oh wow, that's great.
But shit, that's expensive. And let's say even post college, more stuff we can go through there. Sure, but we're done and we find our job. So we find our job here. And yes, finally, I've got a job, and that's freaking awesome.
Right.
Many people do this. And I actually intended to draw it below there, because we begin to have lifestyles that force us to kill brain cells even. And we don't invest in our personal education. We trust in our job alone to provide all of the learning that's possibly, fit for us to consume, which is unfortunate. So especially if you're going into the not-for-profit sector, focus on at least bringing it to a base level again, where you're still making a priority to invest in education, because it's lunacy that thinking that you've maxed out at your early 20s for truly learning. So if you're thinking about the not-for-profit sector, you should absolutely do it. Don't make the assumption that you have to go get for-profit experience for not-for-profits to respect you. That's one of the crazier arguments I've ever heard. Get experience in the field you want to go into. Don't, bide your time being once I have enough experience, I can go into the not-for-profit sector.
Right.
If that's something that you're interested in, take your swing at it, especially early as you define your career. I'm involved, I guess, in a bigger sense in the intersection of social impact and technology, and exactly where those two overlap is where I like to play. I write a column for the Huffington Post Impact and Technology sections. I'm the founder of CTOs for Good, a group of CTOs from not-for-profits at technology-savvy organizations using the scale, such as Kiva and Donors Choose and Network for Good, Global Giving, Volunteer Match, running that. I have my own impact and technology consulting company that focuses on building a data and technology culture at not-for-profits called Whole Whale. So I spend a lot of time on this, and sector-wide, I continue to stay focused, I think, in working in that direction, especially given what's about to happen with regard to mobile.